Calling the Tuesday, May 13, 2025 City Council for the City of North Liberty into session. We have a roll call, please.
Leibold,
Here.
Park,
Here.
Sittig,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Wason.
And here. Moving on to item 3, approval of the agenda. Any changes? Nope. All right, we have a motion for that.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, the agenda has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Moving on down to next item, the consent agenda. Any questions on that before we go along?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. You were able to vote on these, so when you ask for a second, would you signify that you're asking for a second or whether you are seconding yourself? Thank you.
Be more efficient. So, motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second for the consent agenda?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to item 5, public comment. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on something about city business that's not having a public hearing attached already? And seeing none, we will close the public comment and move to the city engineer report.
Thank you. 2 projects. I want to give you a quick update on design phase 1, just recent, the Centennial Park splash pad. It's underway. We've had a kickoff meeting with the owner. Just to give you a look ahead, the schematic design of that project is the first phase, and that'll last through June. Culminate in July. Early July, we'll have a meeting with staff to sort of close out the schematic design process. The other one, Forever Green Road and Jasper Avenue improvements. We're at the 30% design stage. That's Jasper plus the roundabout. Had several meetings with city staff, and we've got a second follow-up meeting with Tiffin and Corville this week. Sorry, Tiffin and Johnson County. Construction projects, North Liberty Road Trail. In the next 2 weeks before we meet again, we're expecting the curb ramps along Penn Street to be reconstructed, the remaining 2. There'll be a lot of storm sewer going in on North Liberty Road and Penn Street on the hill the next couple weeks. And also putting in some drainage tile at the south end of the project. And last but not least, over at Centennial Park in the event center, if you went inside, you'd see a lot of framing, wall framing, door framing, rough ends for plumbing and HVAC, a bunch of those things going in. And on the outside, most of the brick and cast stone is nearing completion on the walls, and the stage foundation work on the backside is in progress. So moving along. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Any questions for Josiah? Nope. Moving along to city administrator report.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I do not have a report this evening, as there are a number of things on this agenda that we'll probably get into that I've been working on that we'll talk about.
All right, we'll move along to the mayor report, and I have the pleasure of filling in for the mayor for the Older Americans Month proclamation. So it's Older Americans Month, whereas Johnson County Livable Community for Successful Aging, JCLC, seeks to collaboratively celebrate the lives and benefits of older adults in the communities throughout this county. And whereas May is Older Americans Month, a time for us to recognize and honor the older adults of North Liberty and their influence on every facet of American society. And whereas older Americans improve our communities through intergenerational relationships, community service, civic engagement, and many other activities. And whereas the Older Americans 2025 theme is Flip the Script on Aging, focusing on transforming how society perceives, talks about, and approaches aging. It encourages individuals and communities to challenge stereotypes and dispel misconceptions. And whereas the City of North Liberty must ensure that older Americans have the resources and support needed to stay involved in their communities, reflecting our commitment to inclusivity and connectiveness, and therefore be it proclaimed that I, Brian Wason, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of North Liberty, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Older Americans Month in the city of North Liberty and urge all citizens to celebrate the profound positive impact of meaningful interactions and social connections with seniors for the entire community. And somebody here to receive the proclamation? Did you have a few words?
Well, thank you. Jeff Kellbach, Aging Specialist, Johnson County Social Services. Just want to thank the council, the city staff for recognizing Older Americans Month with the proclamation and all the work that you guys do here in North Liberty. Great 55+ programming that happens with the recreation and library staff. It's been going on for a number of years. I know I'm working with Angela McConville right now on a healthy aging fair on October 8th in the afternoon at the community center. The last thing I just want to mention real quick, we have a survey out there, community-wide survey for through Johnson County Livable Community for Successful Aging. The survey is covering critical issues, critical topics related to livability and designed to capture the voices of county residents. These responses are going to be used to inform strategic planning efforts, guide recommendations for improving livability in Johnson County, and assist in obtaining the ERP designation for Johnson County as an age-friendly community. That can be accessed on our website. If you go to livablecommunity.org, you can go and get that. If people have questions, not able to access that, they can certainly call us at Johnson County Social Services at 319-356-6090. Thank you.
Want a picture?
Sure, let's do a picture.
So I have actually 2 master's degrees in gerontology-related healthcare.
There you go.
Just to remind us all, Jeff is a North Liberty resident. Yeah.
I am. I qualify to do the survey.
There you go.
Thank you.
We'll shoot you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Makes me sort of stay here.
All right, moving down to city council reports. Anyone have anything they wish to share?
The 25th, I attended the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition community meeting. There's a discussion about the Housing Fellowship and school districts student build, which was really interesting.
If I could, I would like to thank second grader Adley Berg from Heritage Christian School for the kind letter that she wrote in advocating for the addition of the temporary classrooms at Heritage. It was a very nice letter, and I encourage her to keep reaching out to her public servants to advocate for what she needs. And the Strategic Investment District Neighborhood Open House will be held May 14th from 6 to 7 at Heinz Ice Cream. So having some ideas there about what the possibilities are for that area. I was also asked to participate in the charrette process for that area with some really talented architects and community members. Attended the Greater IC luncheon at Big Grove and gave a little update on our Urban Central District project. And that's it. Thank you.
I'll jump in here. Just a couple things from the last time we met. First and foremost, I'm impressed every time I see an activity or an event come together with just the community support from a volunteer perspective. From my own seat with all the prom activities that happened within the last couple weeks, the amount of parent support, the amount of community engagement, the amount of donors that contribute to those projects, whether it be at Clear Creek, whether it be at Regina, whether it be at Liberty High School, is just overwhelming. And with the spring and summer season coming up, volunteers are no doubt an integral part of our community. So I just wanted to say thank you for those efforts. Secondly, and probably even more importantly, with the focus on Mental Health Awareness Month, was happy to attend a couple of different events in just support of those things. One being the Owen Skelly 14 charity golf outing, a couple Fridays ago, and then just last night, the Strike Out the Sigma baseball tournament, which was not only our community represented, but communities throughout the state. So thank you to those folks for those efforts, and to all the volunteers that make those happen.
Brent? So I do have a couple things. First, I think just thank you to the Heartlanders for putting up a good season. That was, they got pretty far down the road there and stuff, so it was kind of fun and stuff. I did get to the Big Rigs event this weekend, and boy, there was a lot of folks there. I did talk to the folks at Shive about their big drone. That was pretty cool. But the fire department did a really pretty interesting demonstration of basically how they demolish a car if they have to get you out of it in a hurry. And they also did quite a bit of safety talk for like the kids in the audience about how important it was, wear your seatbelts. And they told them, this is what happens if you don't and stuff. So that was pretty cool. And then there was, they were hoping to fundraise a little bit more to buy some more tools. So you could always talk to the North Liberty Fire Department's foundation, and they were accepting donations for that. The other thing is National Police Week, and so just take a second to appreciate all of our police officers and everything they do for working on keeping us safe. And now that we have a hospital in North Liberty, it is National Hospital Week. So, and that's all I got. All right, moving down to item 10, which is the 2025A bond sales. Section number 1A is the public hearing on proposal to enter into taxable general obligation urban renewal loan agreement. I'll now open the public hearing. A lot of people. Do we have any written comments, Tracy?
No.
So I think we will go ahead and close the public hearing. Moving to item B, resolution 2025-51, a resolution taking additional action on a proposal to enter into a taxable general obligation urban renewal loan agreement. Do you want to talk about that quick?
Sure. You'll notice in this title the word taxable, which is a little unusual for municipalities, but in this case, this particular issuance or resolution is for the economic development forgivable loan that we'll talk about a little bit later in the agenda with the Urban Central District group. What we're doing here tonight is setting taking additional action on the urban renewal loan agreement, and then just setting us up for a bond sale that would happen June, I believe it's 9th or 10th. 10th, thank you, with a closing on June 30th. Also on in this section is a engagement letter from Dorsey Whitney, just outlining their fees for this particular sale.
Thank you. Is there a motion for this resolution? I will move it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Give a roll call, please.
Wason,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Sittig.
I'll abstain due to conflict.
And it passes 4-0. Right, moving on to next section, resolution number 2025-52, a resolution approving the engagement letter between the City of North Liberty and Dorsey and Whitney LLP. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second besides me?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Sittig,
I'll abstain again.
Wason,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Moving on to item 11 on the agenda.
Oh, in item C, I think, yeah.
That we just did.
Oh, we did? I'm so sorry. You're right.
Just mine carries on the back
My-
of the
yeah,
page
I-
too. Yeah,
thank you,
that's what I
sorry.
just I wrote it down twice. Item 11, 2025B bond sale. We'll now have a public hearing on a proposal to enter into general obligation corporate purpose loan agreement. Now open the public hearing. And anyone wishing to speak on that? And no written comments, I take it?
None.
So we've opened it and we will close the public hearing. Item B, Resolution 2025-53, a resolution taking additional action on a proposal to enter into a general obligation corporate purpose loan agreement and combining loan agreements.
Okay, so this is our more traditional bond sale for our capital projects that are either ongoing or recently completed. There's a list of them in your packet. Just a quick summary. City Hall, a portion of the City Hall project is being proposed to be funded here. For Evergreen Road, Signals project, Centennial Park, and then also reimbursing for the portion of the RISE grant that we had to repay back to the state for the Kansas Avenue project. So in total, it'll be a not to exceed $8.75 million borrowing in this bond sale.
Thank you. Is there a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second besides me?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions? Can we have a roll call, please?
Park,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 5-0. Moving on to item 12 on the agenda, the South Fiber Project. Item A is a public hearing regarding proposed plan specifications and estimate of cost. And I'll open the public hearing. And I take it there's no one else. And again, no written arguments.
No written
All right, we will now close the public hearing. Item B is Resolution 2025-54, a resolution finally approving and confirming plan specifications and estimate of costs for the South Fiber Improvements Project. Can I have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? I just had one question I think you answered earlier, but this is kind of being directed more by the city. So we will do a good job of making sure that people's yards are put back together.
Yeah, this is definitely a city project compared to maybe a private utility doing work out there, and it will be a big impact to our already robust fiber system, connecting other facilities, including Centennial Park, to our system. And yes, we'll be sure to clean up those right-of-ways very nicely.
Yep. Can we have a roll call, please?
Sittig,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Moving to item 13, Water Rate Ordinance Amendment. And item A is the public hearing regarding the proposed water rate increase. Now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on that? Okay, and no written.
None.
Right, we will close the public hearing. Item B is first consideration of ordinance 2025-08, an ordinance amending Chapter 92.02 entitled Rates for Service of the Municipal Code of North Liberty by adopting a new section 9202 to increase the charges for water used. Would you like to speak to that a little bit?
I sure can. We've gone a few years now. It's been 2021 since we've had to make adjustments to our water rate increases in 2019 for wastewater. This all relates back to the facilities plan that you approved and heard from some environmental engineers back in early April about the necessary upgrades to both the water and wastewater facilities as we continue to grow and plan for the future. What we are trying to do, and we've outlined it, attempted to outline it in the model that's included in your packet, is to try and make somewhat modest increases over the next number of years to accommodate for these projects rather than getting to the time where we need to borrow and having to do a very significant rate increase. I think the city ran into that issue a couple decades ago now, having to make some pretty big adjustments. So we're trying to avoid that in some of with these proposed rate increases. And just on a related note, I would say that we're already starting some design discussions with Strand and Associates. In fact, we have a conversation scheduled for tomorrow. So these improvements are going to need to be made moving forward, and so we would recommend these rate increases to be able to accommodate those improvements.
Thank you. All right, could I have a motion for first consideration?
So moved.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? I think one thing just to point out that we've actually done well in the past because North Liberty does a really good job about not using as much water as a lot of places do, and so it's really kept us where we didn't need to expand as fast. But we're getting now to the point where if we don't do this, we're going to have to play catch up, and then that's going to be a bigger problem.
And that's a good point. And I would just note that I believe as the DNR recommends, we plan for 100 gallons per capita per day. We're actual usage is lower than 70. It's actually mid 60s, I believe. So we're our folks are pretty conservative with water, which is a good thing. But nonetheless, we're at a point where we need to make some improvements.
All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Wason,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
First consider passes 5-0. Item 14 on the agenda, sewer rate ordinance amendment. Item A is public hearing regarding the proposed sewer rate increase. I'll now open the public hearing. And again, no one.
No
so we
written
are going to
comments
close the
received.
public hearing. Item B is first consideration of ordinance number 2025-9, an ordinance amending Chapter 99.02 entitled Rate of the Municipal Code of North Liberty by adopting a new section 99.02 to increase the charges for sanitary sewer services. Give a motion for this.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Any discussion? No, this is basically just the continuation of the other part, so.
Yeah.
All right, roll call, please.
Leibold,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Pass 5-0. Item 15, zoning ordinance amendment. We have item A, the public hearing regarding proposed zoning ordinance amendments. I'm going to open the public hearing. And we're going,
Always
did you have any comment?
I'm happy to talk them briefly, but if not, we can move on.
So you want to talk about now or?
Yeah, I mean, just adding a couple of, we're adding the RM14 district. We've talked about this a few times. Adding the CU-C3 district, which directly supports the urban central district. And I think I saw some correspondence relating to why a zoning district as opposed to overlay, and I'm happy to talk about that too. Removing the IP district, which was something we had envisioned for the eastern part of the urban central district, but no longer needed now that there is another proposal, and then updating the use matrix to reflect those changes. Also tweaking the sign ordinance to allow for larger signs in the public district, and this will directly support the Centennial Center. So Planning Commission did consider this. We did them at 2 hearings. We broke it up a little bit. They unanimously recommended approval at both of those hearings.
Thank you. Now close the public hearing. And item B is first consideration of ordinance number 2025-10, an ordinance amending Chapter 168 of the North Liberty Code of Ordinances governing residential, commercial, and industrial districts defined and dimensional standards, and the use matrix table, and Chapter 173 of the North Liberty Code of Ordinances governing business and public use signs. Do we have a motion for that?
So moved. Second.
And moved and seconded. Any further discussion or questions?
Just, I forgot to ask if I should abstain from this one.
No.
Okay. No need.
All right. Can we have a roll call, please?
Park,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye. Item passes 5-0. Moving on to number 16, the Urban Central District. Do you want to talk about it first?
I think so. I think this topic probably bears some deep discussion here. And I will kick it off. We have the developers in the audience who are willing to speak, and I'll probably ask Mr. Pratt to come up here shortly to speak. But what you have in front of you this evening is an economic development forgivable loan agreement. And the concept of this agreement is the same as when we talked about the development and the proposal a few months ago, in that the city would offer an upfront TIF forgivable loan to the developers in the amount of $20 million. In return, they would acquire, demolish, prep a 20-acre site that they've called the Urban Central District in the heart of North Liberty. The agreement is we have about over 50 pages of text and provisions on how we would go about approving those expenses, or those matching expenses as they submit receipts, talking about how the acquisition would work, getting down into some real level of detail on, the ins and outs of how the city would reconcile the $20 million grant, in addition to forgivable loan, excuse me. In addition to that, then we have closing and acquisition on properties that are spoke about in here, but and authorized in here, but eventually would happen, presumably after this agreement is approved and throughout the next couple of months. Some of the exhibits in here talk specifically about what the city's responsibilities will be in terms of helping the developer, and likewise what the developer responsibilities are going to be after that vertical infrastructure gets complete. And the last thing I'll note about in here, and certainly happy to visit about anything in this agreement, is the promissory note, which is a pretty important piece. And basically what we're saying here is that developer, UCD Holdings, we're going to give you $20 million and then over the next 25 years, you're actually going to pay $35 million back to the city in the form of either TIF receipts, property taxes, incremental property taxes, or if the property isn't generating what we've projected, then the developer would be on the hook for the difference of what is generated versus what the amortization schedule is in the promissory note. And I should note that once we sell the bonds, that amortization schedule will change based on whatever the interest rate is. The $35 million, I think it's 35 plus, is the city's total cost in the borrowing. So principal plus interest. And the idea is we get that repaid over the 25-year period. So that is, in a nutshell, what we're talking about here. And I'm happy to go into this further, and I should note that Tracy and Russ and Grant have all been involved in this. We've worked with Dorsey Whitney and a couple of their attorneys, and then of course the developers and their attorney have been involved. So part of the reason it took so long to get all this information to you is just because of the level of detail and kind of the scouring we've done over these documents. I think it would probably, if it's okay with you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, to have Brandon come up and talk a little bit about, again, maybe refresh us on what the plan is, but also I think it's important to note here the change within the development ownership You see Brandon and Scott here. Previously, they had Jeff, and there's been some changes there. I think it's important that we talk about that tonight. So maybe, if it's okay with you, we'll have Brandon speak on that.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, first and foremost, a huge thank you to everybody sitting over here and the attorneys not in the room. I cannot tell you the amount of work that has gone into this 55-page plus document and the attorneys that were involved, and it took a small army working a lot of hours, so greatly appreciative of that. First of all, just to kind of address the last point first, if I can. So I want to make sure you guys know Jeff is not here, not because he doesn't want to be, but he has a college graduation for his son in Ames. So I want to make sure you guys understand that that's the purpose he's not here. Otherwise, his portion would have been talking about this first. So complete transparency, Jeff is still going to be involved in this project. He's just going to be a partner in a different capacity. He's going to be involved as a consultant from the design phase. And I'm going to use his words, which are certainly more elegant than mine. His entire goal when he first acquired the one piece that he does own was to be able to put a project together and hand it off in a better place than how he took it over, and to bring something to the city that's going to be different and unique. And he feels like he's accomplished that. And he holds his head high on that. And again, I'm using his words. I wish it were him here saying that. But at the end of the day, he's still going to be involved in the project. We're still super excited about the project. I don't want to go into his personal family decisions on why, but I think it's pretty obvious to state that the size, scope, and scale of this project has ballooned from where it started out 3 years ago to where it is today, to where it is today. And then furthermore, where it's going in the future. If you guys look in the packets, we've got approximately a 9-year development process. So construction and full vertical integration and stabilization doesn't even start until 10 years from now. I'm not going to make a joke on age, but Jeff's a couple years older than us and made some decisions with his family that he wanted to be involved in a different capacity. So that's the God's honest truth. I sit by Jeff every week at church, plan to continue to do that. He's still going to be involved in this project in a numerous amount of ways. And in fact, the main road that's running through the project is named Nimble, which is to kind of pay homage to what he's brought to the project and will continue to bring to the project. So that's the first part. Outside of that, obviously have any questions and happy to answer, but just to kind of recap, the project is 20 total acres. We have, we're at the 1 yard line, obviously pending tonight with a commitment to bring in a regional medical facility that will sit on the northwest corner. The site plan has changed a handful of times to be able to work with Mr. Rusnick's vision on what that looks like. And so we've moved things and changed things, things that have changed since we were first up here. Public streets are now private. There's a handful of reasons for that. Some of the reasons is to be able to get more taxable income to help make the project feasible. Obviously, I think you guys know, but shifting of roads and going from public to private changes setbacks and interior design standards. And so that's a big reason for that. At the end of the day, we've added more multifamily. We've brought some multifamily over to what we're calling the central portion. And purpose of that is just to continue to create a community of a walk, eat, live, play community, still focusing on the connectivity of a major 8-foot bike trail that connects what we'd call urban central district on the central portion and then also on the east portion. The net benefit, again, is ultimately this all comes back to payback in dollars, and we're grateful for hopefully a successful vote tonight, but we need to be mindful on what is feasible, and what's feasible is a little bit more multifamily. It helped out the tax revenue and the TIF dollars a little bit, and that's what got us to get to this point. So it'll be a combination of approximately, and again, I think we've always done a good job explaining that site plans change. We don't know what we don't know yet, so we're going to continue to ask for a little bit of grace. We know that it's going to be multifamily and it's going to be commercial, and we're going to create a design element that connects them. But at the end of the day, we're looking for somewhere around 9 4-story multifamily Class A apartments, and somewhere in that 50 to 60,000 square feet of commercial with anchored regional medical facility. So happy to answer any questions. And yeah.
Okay. So do we have a motion to start discussing this?
Oh, yeah, I can.
Yep. We have a motion for a resolution authorizing the economic development and forgivable loan agreement to UCT Holdings.
I'll move it, Mayor Pro Tem.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. Now, we can talk. All right, who wants to start?
I think I'll start. I was a little disappointed, frankly, in staff that I was not made aware of the change in ownership. It came to me in a phone call on my way to council chambers this evening. Shouldn't be like that, especially for the largest economic development agreement that we will see in the history of this city. I had a conversation with Jeff, and been friends with Jeff for a long time. That conversation was exactly the way that Mr. Pratt laid it out, and his reasons for stepping aside from a financial ownership perspective to continue the partnership in design and ideas and the things that Jeff is known for around this city. And I don't want to downplay the amount of work that the staff has put in this week. They have been under a tremendous amount of stress and workload with this. It's a large project. There was a lot that went into it. Certainly there's mistakes that can be made, and we'll learn from that, and we'll work on those things as we move forward. I wanted to share that first off. The length of the agreement, the amount of time that it took for the agreement to reach us late this afternoon could not have possibly, given this council with full-time jobs enough opportunity to read in depth and word for word exactly what is in there. That happens sometimes with smaller things, and we put the faith and trust in staff and their expertise that has guided this city for a very long time. I find it a little more difficult to do that with something of this magnitude. So hence the discussion tonight in a public setting. So obviously I had concerns that I shared with Jeff as I peppered him with questions on my way here. Again, just a few minutes before walking in the door. A lot of those questions were answered to my satisfaction, asking, the reasons why, what's behind it, and will this project be successful without his involvement. He assured me that it would be. He assured me that he still is dedicated to the process, the project, and is still very excited about it, as am I, quite frankly. I just want to open that discussion. I want this full transparent. I owe that to the constituents of North Liberty that, everybody understands the magnitude of what this is, how it's come to be, so that when we make a decision tonight as a council, everything's been laid out on the table. And if a decision is made to move forward, we've done so in transparency, in a full understanding with the ownership group. So Brandon, my question for you, and similar questions to Jeff. I guess my biggest concern when a third partner removes himself, and again, for what he explained to me being family reasons, not that there was any falling out of the partnership. Where does that third now come from financially? How is it filled? And what does that look like moving forward for the project?
Yeah, no problem. First, I want to answer a question you didn't ask, but I think it's important in the moment of transparency. Jeff had asked that it wasn't our place to let anyone know about the partnership change. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that there was nothing omitted intentionally on our behalf. So,
understood.
Okay.
My public comment is towards staff.
Sure.
And that will be a conversation for the future with staff.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, the short answer is there's 100% no concern from that standpoint. The partnership that we have in place not only is completely capable of doing a project of this size, and I think our reputation speaks for ourselves in past projects, we additionally have access to a capital arm that we have, and that was what was going to be involved in this project, regardless of whether Jeff was still here or not. So there's zero issues with that.
I'll pause for a moment and let my colleagues jump in.
When it comes to, because we haven't done title opinions and whatnot, there was some concern there from the attorneys that there's been nothing new, added on between that will be any additional cost on those, there weren't liens on these properties that you guys saw in the title opinions that we haven't saw yet, right?
No, we don't have title opinions on all the properties yet. On the ones that we have for the upcoming closings we do, and there's no concerns there.
And we'll be able to see the upcoming ones, correct?
Yes, we've seen their title opinions on the ones that are closing.
Oh, you have?
Yes. So we've yes is the short answer. I can talk more, but I tend to get going. So get going. All right.
Okay, I didn't
So
gather that.
yes, the developer has they have engaged their own attorney, Mr. Ryan Pram, who's an excellent real estate attorney around here, to do their due diligence for their process. But they're doing it on behalf of them, and so we've asked them to provide paperwork to us that they've done. So we've received title opinions, preliminary title opinions on 2 properties, and some purchase agreements, notes, mortgage documents, and so on. And in all candor, I prosecute speeding tickets, guys. I am not a real estate attorney, right? So, but I happen to know a few, and so I reached out to local counsel here, Mike Kennedy, in Iowa City, and had him review the documents that they provided to us, and I provided a letter to council with thoughts on that as far as what everything looks to be in order. That is not work that's been done for the city, right? But everything looks okay. If we were a commercial lender, we would be doing due diligence on this ourselves. This would be a more lengthy process to do this like that. We're not a commercial lender. This is almost a quasi grant. We're hoping that we don't get paid back from this, that we put all this money out and everything goes gangbusters and the loans get forgiven over a period of time. There are, without that due diligence, we've done the best we can in the compressed time frame we have. We didn't receive the paperwork until very recently, and this is all happening at a very accelerated rate. And so we've taken the information that we have available to us and given it to people who are qualified to look at it, and got an opinion from them, which I shared with you all on email prior to the meeting here today, just earlier today. So, but I shared a letter with you concerning those that process. Again, I keep going.
I had just have a question on that, and I don't know, Grant, if it's you or Brandon or Scott, whatever, but you guys, I want to understand the compressed time frame a little bit, because I believe in your letter, you said if we had an additional 2 weeks, we would be able to perform our due diligence. And maybe it's a combination question.
That was a time frame, and that was a time frame that was provided to me by Dorsey and Whitney, our bond counsel. So the bond counsel worked on the agreement that's in the packet, and I worked with them on that, and I fully endorse everything in that agreement. I think the agreement we have for the TIF financing and repayment and all that, it's excellent. I fully sign off on that.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the other process.
So is the compressed time frame due to closing dates that are relatively soon, or what happens? What is the wait? What is the impact if we did wait 2 weeks to do a little bit more due diligence on our end with this type of investment?
The short answer, and I'll explain, the short answer is it would kill the entire deal. It would be off the table.
Why is
I know
that?
that that's not the answer you want. There's a handful of reasons. First of all, I think the comment about 2 weeks was 2 weeks worth of work, and 2 weeks worth of work, to everyone's credit, happened in nights, weekends, and evenings to get
sure.
that done. So I'm 100%.
I'm not discounting that at all.
Absolutely, but 100% confident that what we produced is we got there.
Yeah.
But it was a lot. We got there. The radical candor is that we've had all 15 of these different parcels of property under contract, a little bit in the secret of night to be able to, without tipping off everybody. We got to that point a couple months ago. We went public. These properties were very difficult to acquire, incredibly difficult. It's part of the reason that we stood here and asked for the funds that we did. It's difficult as a developer to say that we're going to be taking the risk that we're going to be taking, and to say that there's not the upside to match that. And the radical candor is pretty true. Mm-hmm. All that being said, when the paper announces largest development agreement in the city, and we've got due diligence period that are supposed to hit certain dates, we get to those dates, and through scheduling conflicts, through not making excuses, but a host of things, we were supposed to have this conversation 2 weeks earlier, and it's been pushed back. Well, we come up to due diligence, when I go to my sellers or the sellers, and I say, hey, can I get an extension? I've now already asked for 3. This is now public information, and they start taking pretty serious advantage of us.
The price goes up.
Not just goes up. We're already paying. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I see. I see.
Yeah.
That's what I was wanting to understand.
Absolutely.
Why. Yeah.
And it's just conversations were had. What does this look like? As far back as a week ago, what does this look like if we push it two more weeks? And the reality is, it would destroy the entire deal. I firmly believe that. That's not an exaggeration.
Yeah. Scott, you feel the same? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. That's understanding that I didn't have. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Brandon, what assurances are you coming into council with tonight for this chamber?
I can assure you that this property probably never gets developed if we don't vote on it tonight. I can assure you that I'm going to take 20 acres. I should say we are going to take 20 acres in the middle of town, that I'm going to say the same thing I said 2 months ago, is almost impossible to develop. 20 feet of elevation change. We've got contamination issues. We've got, I don't remember the number, 8 or 9 buildings that need to be demoed. We've got easements. We've got a 360-foot box culvert. We've got challenges that most developers walk away from, and the radical candor is that's the reason this property is sat here right in the middle of town for this long. So I can assure you that I'm going to take an eyesore and we're going to make it something special. And I have all the confidence in the world in our partnership team and our development team and our general contracting team. And that, I want to be crystal clear, involves Jeff. That includes Jeff. He's still part of that team. So I'm here to tell you, I mean, if you look inside of the terms of the agreement, we're not just betting our company. I'm betting my house. I'm betting my partner's house on this. I mean, I am aligned with you guys more than any developer you're ever going to have. And truthfully, that's why a lot of people walked away from this. I mean, we took it from one piece of property in the center that Jeff owned to 19 parcels to beautify the entire area, because quite honestly, it's the only way it gets done. One piece doesn't work without the other. The commercial doesn't work without the residential. You can't put the residential on the backside without a draw. That's why we work so hard with Russ and City to be able to get the bike trail and the connectivity. It has to happen this way. And I would agree. I wish we had more time. I wish we had more time. The reality is, I think we put our first piece of property under contract. I'm going to make this up, so don't hold me to it, but somewhere between probably 9 to 13 months ago. And it's taken that long just to get to this point, and it's been a hurry up and wait. But I can assure you, this is my community. It's my reputation. It's Scott's community. It's Scott's reputation. And we're going to do what's right. We're going to do what's right by you guys. And I just hope that you would consider that my reputation, our reputation would come into play in this as well.
Well, I got a few more specific questions while everybody ponders that. So we've moved this around a little bit. So originally it was going to be housing closer onto the east side of Muddy Creek, but now we've added a couple of units. One of them kind of along Cherry Street there a little bit across from the rec center, and then one kind of behind like the commercial area. And the commercial area is now moved closer to Rancho. Mm-hmm. And there'll be still like 4 buildings into that. And so, but then we've added this other one, and And then it'll actually possibly actually looks a little better about the condos that are already there and stuff, so. Okay. And then what typos, I know there's a lot of clearing and things to do. So when are we going to see a building?
Well, we're tied to get those buildings up as fast as possible. I would say absolute best case scenario, we put a foundation in the ground this fall. Worst case scenario, we're putting a foundation in spring of next year. Our intent would be to do 1 commercial building and 2 multifamily buildings all at the same time. So you should, while I'm answering your question, you should technically, hopefully, if things go well, see as many as 3 going vertical at the same time.
Okay. And those the residential part would be on the east side, or would they be more on the west side?
We're going to start, well, the way the development schedule has it laid out is for us starting on the central side, the west side.
Okay. So and then moving on the other side of the creek.
We would go there next.
That's
Yes,
right.
that's correct.
So-
Yep, that's correct. The priority would be what we're calling our anchor tenant in the northwest corner would be building number 1, and then the multifamily building would start on the north side off of Cherry. The reason that part, just to not to get too deep into the development schedule, but that eliminates the design, the build of the box culvert, all of the fill. That allows us to go vertical as quickly as possible. That was for the strategy for that. And in today's world, originally, the original site plan, that multifamily Cherry Street building was scheduled to be some sort of a speculative commercial building. Being transparent with the way the commercial industry is right now, that was going to be probably the last building in our original pro forma. We actually had that ground valued at nothing. And we went from saying, hey, if we change this concept, our last building actually now becomes our second building. So again, with the goal to try to be able to get tax TIF revenue created as soon as possible.
Okay. And then what is our sequencing for purchase? I mean, we want to close, you want to close on something tomorrow.
Yeah, we have closing statements already approved and financing.
On a couple sections. And when is the next one?
The next one would actually be the following week, the 20th. And then we've got inside of your packets, we have a schedule in there that takes us all the way out just through July. And then we'll have everything closed by then.
So if the council really was concerned about the titles, doing our own title searches, we could do that on at least those.
Sure, and
down the road.
And I would note that, I mean, the title opinions that we've been provided have been copied to us, and so it's the real estate attorney I spoke with says that we're entitled to rely on that title opinion, right? Which is, marketable title is just one thing, that this is a bigger thing. But yes.
So if it came to that, we would have opportunity, at least for those things and stuff. So it's not, that concern about the title and stuff, which we are pretty sure is 100%, 99.9999% fine.
Yeah.
And stuff, but we just haven't done it, particularly the cities ourselves and stuff.
Sure.
So, but we could do that if we wanted to. So, and all right, I think that was my other question right off the bat. You got any more? Yep.
And I assume it is, but all those purchases are all aligned together, right? There's no way that you close on 3 of them and can't do the rest of them.
So
we're in contracts for all of those purchases.
Yeah, so everything is completely under contract. In the effort of, and going back to Council Bryan's question, our goal was to extend the ones that we had, and we couldn't get them extended. That was why I said this has to happen tonight. So we've pushed out and extended all the rest of the parcels to make sure that there is any due diligence. I'm confident there's no issues, but we have all of them under contract. No issues whatsoever.
I guess my last thing will just be a comment. It's a significant risk, but I feel like it's also a significant reward. It's a massive, endeavor for us, and the city hasn't, done something like it. But, I don't think we'd be having this conversation if it was with, someone else. And I guess I do have one other question. Things all the time take more money, than situations come up. It's going to it's going to cost more. Are we, is that going to pose any issues down the road? Or how is that handled?
Yeah, I mean, we have contingencies built into our vertical construction for sure. And we recognize that we're in an interesting world right now. I can't deny that. So at the end of the day, though, we have some very serious strategic partners, both from a capital standpoint and from a construction standpoint, that I'm not going to say alleviate, but certainly mitigate some of those risks. And quite honestly, I don't know that there's any other local developers that probably have, that comfort. So I'm proud of those relationships.
I'm excited.
Thanks.
Just maybe one more comment or question. Russ, alignment with the comprehensive plan. Looking back, I wasn't here when the comprehensive plan was established. Did you ever see anything like this? Does it fit with what the planning committee looks at, that kind of stuff? Help me understand that a little bit more from a total vision standpoint.
I certainly appreciate the question. When we had RDG look at our comprehensive plan, we looked at this area as a potential redevelopment area. And, if you actually look at the comp plan, it shows a redevelopment with a road coming up through the middle. And it was a little more ambitious than I think what was realistic, but showed a road continuing to the north. And to credit to Brandon's team, they incorporated the comprehensive plan and said, we want to put a road in there through the middle. And so it's pretty cool, I think, how close the comprehensive plan is. But we identified this area as an urban high intensity, as an area of special focus. We knew that this was a big critical piece in the redevelopment of our city. And furthermore, Olive Cherry Street. And so this is this is what I would consider a home run in the comprehensive plan, because it really identified these properties as a redevelopment. And to see something like this is just a little stunning, to be honest with you.
Thank you. And the image on the screen here, forgive me, either it's my glasses or some of it just looks a little blurred. Can you just kind of walk us through which ones, the commercial pieces in here?
Yeah. So all of the commercial off of Rancho Way 965.
On the left-hand side there.
That's correct.
Okay.
And again, I just want to state the northwest corner is relatively locked in. The three buildings to the south are just going to be dependent on users, right? They can contract, shrink, expand, depending on what our tenant mix is. So, and then everything else that you see is multifamily.
Okay.
Yep. And one comment I didn't mention, in the southwest corner, Russ, the multifamily building on the commercial side, in the southeast corner, excuse me. Yeah, right there. That was slated originally to be a parking lot. Again, as we went through what kind of revenue we needed to generate, that building was kind of just added. So that's where the kind of the net positive came in, because that was just going to be a parking lot. There's giant fall from front to back there. It's a difficult lot. It's not marketable from a commercial standpoint. So I'm really proud for the design team to be able to pull that off. I know we talked about the Cherry Street one, but we didn't mention that, so I wanted to highlight that. Okay. And then the other thing that we did is, all the buildings on the east, which you're looking at, is 7 buildings on the east side. One thing that has changed is we originally were looking at doing 5 stories, and we've taken that down to 4. And there's a handful of reasons. Soils is one of them. We go back to the difficulties of the site. We're not building on great ground. There's a reason, again, that's sat there, not only from the redevelopment that needs to take place, but being right along the water there and being close to a floodplain. And so the reality was we actually wanted to go a little grander, and don't think that A, it's going to be feasible financially, and B, it may not even be constructible. So that is one change, so really when you look at our original plan compared to this plan, we did end up net positive on multifamily, but not as much as you think, because you're looking at this going, you went from 7 to 9 buildings, total unit count went up just only a little bit, but we had to spread it out because we lost a floor on those 7 buildings.
Thank you.
You bet.
So Brandon, I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Park. This project isn't possible without local partners like you and Scott. You sense my frustration. My frustration's not with you or your team. My frustration is currently at staff, and the timing aspect. This took longer. I'm sure you wanted it to not take as long. And we're pushed up against a deadline that is, it's now or never. None of us up here ever like being put in that position, especially with something of this magnitude. I can safely say if this was an out-of-state deal, no go. You guys have proven yourselves personally, professionally to me, I hope as well as to my colleagues. There's a number of areas and places in this town that we can point to that you've poured your heart and soul into because this is where you live. This has been your community your entire life, and you are taking a significant risk on this, as is the city. Ryan or Grant, remind me, as we enter into this $20 million agreement, will we have first rights to the parcels, second rights? Remind me how this works
Mortgages.
initially.
Sure. So I believe we're having first priority mortgages on the residential property on the east side. And initially we would have a first priority mortgage for purchasing the property on the central district, but that this agreement contemplates that we would subrogate that mortgage to a second position, allowing the commercial properties to move forward. That's my understanding. But so there are some significant protections baked in here for us for that.
So primary on the east side.
So primary on everything until all acquisitions are completed.
Okay.
Once they start going vertical, we'll be primary on the east side, second on the west side. And that's to allow them to go to a bank to get so that they're the first, so they can start going vertical on the east.
They wouldn't be able to,
West.
a commercial lender wouldn't be able to do that without a first priority loan. We're in a position where we can do that.
Right.
This is, in theory, going to be a grant. It's eventually, right?
Right.
Not technically, but that's the idea. So we can. That's how it's structured.
I agree. This doesn't get developed. It's something that we have needed for a long time. Although I'm not pleased with the time frame or the entirety of the position that I'm put in tonight, I think this is a must-have. I think it's a risk that we have to take because we're just not going to get another partner like this. So that's my piece.
I appreciate the vote of confidence, Brent. And,
And thanks for having the hard conversation. These are hard in front of, with public input, but they're important.
No, absolutely. And listen, one of our core values of our company is integrity and honesty. And I don't want the entire onus of the delay to fall onto these guys. We all could have been better at different stages. So sure. I can't go to bat enough how hard that team has worked in the last week. So I need to make sure to say that publicly.
Understood.
But I appreciate your vote of confidence. Thank you.
So before you sit down, can you talk to me about the traffic? How do you get in and out of this?
Yeah. So we'll focus on Central first. Yeah, we have a main entrance is off of Highway 965. And then as you turn south, you hit Community Drive there, which is another inches off 965 to the west, where the post office is.
Yeah, and please recall, we have in our capital improvement plan to make that connection from Commercial Drive to Zeller.
Yep. So look forward to having you guys punch that down south to Zeller. So you'll into the, and then there also is another entrance currently. Yep, correct. Currently that is off of Cherry Street there, and then another one also to the east. Obviously, that's really to be there for the main purpose of the Cherry Court condos. Right now, they have an easement that's a little bit cumbersome. It's a driveway right next to a driveway, right next to a curb cut. So we're going to eliminate 3 potential entrances and go to 2 and spread those out. So I think that's super beneficial from a traffic standpoint. But saying that, you'll have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different entrances into Central. So I think that's more than amicable. And then, then again, following the desires of the city and the district and the original game plan and the growth, just like Cherry Street all the way down to Zeller Street and everywhere in between there. Yep. So 2 main entrances. And our idea would be, from a staging standpoint, just so everybody's aware, we'd start from the north and work our way south. So the hope would be that we could keep our construction traffic away from residential traffic. So strategically, that's also goes into the design process.
So do we have any concerns about people on Ranshaw wanting to turn south, coming out? Because it's going to be a couple lanes of traffic for them to get across, and do we need to signal that, or going to need to signal that?
Are you talking about pulling out of the main entrance
Yeah.
onto Rancho,
Yeah.
turning left? Well, Rancho does have turn lanes. So does Commercial Drive.
Wouldn't it be similar to coming out of the post office?
It would be right now.
Which is
Yep.
always interesting.
I
I mean,
would love to advocate.
the fact that he's got 4 entrances into it is great because we're not forcing everybody into one spot. That would be problematic, I believe.
Agreed. And I would love the opportunity to say I look forward to having you guys fund sooner rather than later the punch out to Zeller, because that just helps alleviate it even more.
Yeah. Just I know how hard it is to turn from the post office. Any other stuff? So just kind of my little final thought on it is, I think you kind of glossed over it a little bit, but you are putting yourself personally, financially into this, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So I think that's important for people to recognize is, it's like, oh, well, you've done a lot of stuff in the city and there's a lot of projects around, but, I think you believe in it enough. And that's one of the things we've always done. And when we've done these development agreements in the past is, we want to see personal skin in the game, and you guys have that.
Yeah, I've had a few conversations with my wife, so has Scott, to make sure that this was the right thing to do. I appreciate that. And we're going to make it incredibly successful. I promise you. This is going to be a great project.
Yeah, I don't have any final questions, more just comments, and I know you guys. For me, usually the thought process, if the answer has to be now, then the answer is no. However, with this, it's not that the answer is now, right? We've been discussing it. We've had the information. We've gone through it. We've been able to understand and see what this looks like, what it could be, what it will be. And the comments that were mentioned up here, I think go down to 2 main things. 1, trust, and 2, commitment to this community. And that has never been anything that's wavered, that's been uncertain or unsure. And so for that, I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate the staff efforts to get to this point where we're at a vote. So that's for me. Thank you.
Everybody good?
Thank
Roll
you,
call,
everyone.
please.
Appreciate it.
Leibold,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Sittig,
I abstain due to a conflict.
Park.
Aye.
All right, resolution passes 4-0. Whew. Thank you for all that discussion. Moving on to item number 17, Heritage Christian School Site Plan and the Staff and Planning Commission recommendations.
Okay, this is, I've been talking with Brian with Heritage Christian School for quite some time. He expressed a need for some temporary classrooms. And so we by code, it was required to have a preliminary site plan, which you see before you. Here's a location on the north side of the building. We talked about maybe a little bit more of a better location, a little more hidden being on the south side, but Brian had indicated that that's the location where their permanent addition is. And I'll let him speak to some of the design work they're doing on the preliminary or on the permanent design. Certainly, we allow the school board to have these to alleviate a temporary need. I'll be honest, and I expressed this to Brian. A concern is for me. Temporary means not permanent, and a concern is how long would these be here? And we know things change with private funding. They rely on fundraising, so that was a concern. So we expressed a limitation of a little over 3 years to get you through the end of the summer in 2028. Mr. Goodbar was agreeable to that. We have that condition as recommended by Planning Commission. The Heritage Christian School has agreed to that condition in writing, so that is included in your resolution. Planning Commission considered this item and unanimously recommended approval subject to that one condition. Thank you.
Thank you. Applicant presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for considering our resolution. I've been in Heritage Christian School for a couple of years. 2 years ago, we had 196 students. We went to 215 this year. We have 240 enrolled for next year. So my joke with the community there is it's the opposite of Field of Dreams. They're coming, so we need to build it. We've had a facilities master planning committee in place for over a year that have been working on short-term and long-term plans. We have contracted with FRK Architects out of Des Moines, who was responsible for designing Grant Elementary School in North Liberty. We've completed the schematic design phase, and we are hoping to enter a campaign phase probably within the next 4 months. So that is the backstory, I think, on what we're planning to do over there. But we're not a best-kept secret anymore, and I think we provide a valuable service for the community. And I'm continually being asked by parents when we're going to have a high school, and I said, first things first, we want to expand to have 2 sections per grade through 8th grade, and then I feel like we'd have a solid freshman class to move in the direction of a high school with no timeline on that yet. So do you have any questions?
We probably will get back to you here in a second.
Okay. Paul, thank you for the call out for Adley Berg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for the letter.
Yeah.
Moving to item C, resolution number 2025-56, a resolution approving the preliminary site plan for Heritage Christian School, North Liberty, Iowa. We have a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So a couple of things. So so the city's granting you 3 years on the temporary. What is the time frame for the expansion, the permanent expansion?
We're looking to, and like I said, the next 4 months start a capital campaign, which we estimate would go 16 to 18 months, breaking ground. I'm assuming at some point in that process, just not knowing, the number of donation dollars we'll have at that time. Definitely, I think our goal is within the 3 years to have that occupiable. So, but as Ryan had mentioned, we are at the mercy of fundraising. So we've contracted with an outside agency called Mission Advancement out of Texas that took us through a feasibility study that proved favorable. And we're going to have a board meeting in a couple of weeks that we're going to decide to move forward with them in this process.
So I have intimate knowledge of the school, very familiar with the school as my son graduated from here. My question for staff with the limitation of 3 years, every school, every single one of them that we've built in this community with Iowa City Community School District, within 2 years has put temporary buildings on the side of their schools because, frankly, they didn't always necessarily plan for what came. Have we put restrictions on Iowa City Community School District with timeframes on temporary buildings in the past? Because it anecdotally has seemed to me that those have been left go and standing for a substantial amount of time. And I think it bears the question, are we being unfair to Heritage restricting them to a 3-year usage?
I don't recall a time frame, and I don't have as much history as you do.
Yeah,
Brian.
I don't even know. I have a hard time recalling at that point if they even applied for site plan. Maybe if something they just did.
Yeah,
I don't think they ever had them at Christine Grant. I'm pretty sure, and we kind of pushed hard on eventually at
Van Allen?
no, Buford.
Oh, Buford.
Because the portables were causing traffic issues because of
Right.
the students there. And so then they got their, I think they called it their FMP 1.0, got that approved. And I think, I don't know if we have, where we have them at today, if we have any today. I don't know that we do in the Iowa City School District.
I don't
Other than
believe so.
maybe the,
North Central.
yeah, while they're under construction at North Central. But to your original question, especially at Penn, I don't know that they even applied for something
Nope, I'm going to not talk. Okay.
So again, to that point, I appreciate that context. We have a school that is here doing it right, following the rules and doing it, and then they get placed on a restriction, where if they would have just done it and asked for forgiveness, they wouldn't be under the restriction. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. I think today, though, if Iowa City came to us, we'd ask for the same thing.
And, Counselor, if I may, there was, I believe, a misconception by staff at one point that we couldn't ask the school district for those concessions, that they were immune to that by virtue of being public funded. That is not true. But that was an assumption that I became aware of when I came on board here a number of years ago, after Christine Grant Elementary was built. I've worked with the school district, and they've to fix plats, to dedicate right of way, to make things right, and to correct those things afterwards. We are applying the same standard to everybody. Heritage is just kind of that we would ask for anybody else for future development. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Yes,
and
I don't think that we thought we could ask before.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference, is that Heritage is playing by the rules, and they should be applauded for that.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and I also recall with North Central, I don't remember the timing, but we were reviewing the building plans for the expansion, and so there was a level of comfort that
They came to us and offered a site plan for and during their presentation to the council, I believe they also suggested that there was going to be a maximum time frame for the temporary structures while construction was underway at North Central. I had a nice conversation with the principal. I can't remember his name, North Central. You know his name?
I emailed, but it's not yet.
Yeah, but they were interested in having a limitation on the temporary structures. They're not ideal for learning. They have a whole host of problems. So having them be temporary is in everybody's interest.
Is there a process in place by which, if they use these for 3 years and they need an extension, they have an extension ask?
Yeah, they come back and basically renew their site plan with the agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very, very simple.
Okay.
Where would your anticipated addition go?
On the south side, which is off screen there, but we were looking at the south and west side of the school. Even though we have a lot of land the other way, I think with FRK, we were looking at continuity of the building, looking for line of sight in hallways. Safety and security always a maximum concern there. So really on that side, expanding the parking lot to go along with those extra needs. And so that's the section of the school we decided that would be the best place to land that. And then with a lot of freedom to use the rest of the land for future additions.
Yeah, and one thing to add, just to expand on what Grant, I think we've kind of recognized we could do a better job of memorializing. Brian and I got to have a conversation about 3 years. Yeah, no problem. Either of us move on and things change, right? And 3 years, where did that come from? And we just wanted to get it out there, have a board approve it, have the city council approve it. We can amend it. That's no problem. But we wanted to have this situation where it was just out in the open of, yes, we're all agreeing to this term. Yeah. And I absolutely, I think we would do that with public schools, Iowa City schools as well.
We don't want permanent portables either.
Right.
I grew up in California and went to permanent portable schools. So.
Yep, my kids had one of them in Oxford before Clear Creek had other schools. So
okay,
good stuff. Any other discussion?
Do you know how much your capital campaign's going to try to raise?
Looking at between 12 and 14 million. So we're going to include 9 classrooms, separate art and music classrooms, because right now those are combined, which is tight. A second gym to accommodate the additional classes for PE. Turning our other gym into more of a multi-purpose room. Have an actual cafeteria. Now the kids are eating lunch in their classrooms. So.
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Wason,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
And resolution passes 5-0. Moving to item 18, Forever Green Estates Part 2 Preliminary Plat. A is Staff and Planning Commission recommendation.
Okay, we've talked about this property, or at least part of it. At the southeast corner was the assisted living facility. So this is the formal or I should say the preliminary subdivision plat. These are just four large, very large plats, 4 lots, I'm sorry, with on-site stormwater detention. But the southeast corner, as I mentioned, is for the assisted living. Just to the north of that would be a townhouse development that's also on this agenda, and nothing planned for the 2 west parcels. Julia Drive would extend north-south and intersect with Forever Green Road. That would be limited to a right-in, right-out, and that would be achieved by the developer constructing a median through there. And then they would also have a drive to the east-west that would connect to Kansas, and none of these lots will have direct access to either Forever Green Road or Kansas. So pretty straightforward. We're excited to keep this development keeps moving. But the Planning Commission had 2 findings, and they accepted those 2 listed findings and forwarded these requests to the City Council with a recommendation for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there applicant presentation?
Hi, Chris Thompson, MMS Consultants here representing the applicant. I'll just be happy to answer any questions.
I think we made you. That's it. That. Moving to item C, Resolution 2025-57, resolution approving the preliminary plat for Forever Green Estates Part 2, North Liberty, Iowa. Have a motion for the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussions? Roll call, please.
Park,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye. Resolution passes 5-0. Moving to item 19, Forever Green Estates, Part 2, Lot 125, preliminary site plan. It's the Staff and Planning Commission recommendations.
This is just 4 buildings, 4 units in each, so a total of 16 buildings, very linear, similar to another development out there, but pretty straightforward review. And give you an idea of what they look like. But the Planning Commission had accepted the 1 listed finding and forwards this request to the City Council with a recommendation for approval. Thank you.
Can you put anything on the east side of that?
It's a detention.
Yeah, there's
It's unbuildable, right?
Yep.
Right, moving to applicant presentation.
Yeah, so Chris Thompson again here represent the client. It's a separate applicant. So with the nature of that assisted living facility, it has quite a sprawling footprint. So we kind of reconfigured the detention. This was originally a double loaded street, and with the changes to the detention, it became what you see now.
Okay. All right, moving to item C, resolution number 2025-58, resolution approving the preliminary site plan for Forever Green Estates Part 2, Lot 125, North Liberty, Iowa. We have a motion for that.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Buildings look nice, thank you. Roll call, please.
Wason,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Resolution passes 5-0. Moving down to item 20, FY 2025-26 budget. Resolution number 2025-59, a resolution setting the time and place for a public hearing for the purpose of considering the fiscal year 2025-26 budget. We have a motion for this.
So moved.
And is a second by anyone?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Want to talk about this?
I would like to, if
Right,
you don't
so-
mind. Council, appreciate the opportunity to visit a little bit about this, and you're all aware of this situation here, but I'd like to just touch base on it for the public and talk a little bit about how we are going to be moving forward. Tracy and I will both be making some comments during this period, but essentially, the short version here is we failed to get a public hearing notice published. We thought we had it published. An email was ready to go. Got distracted. Went into a draft box, and there it sat. And it was a mistake, an overlook on our part. It was a substantial mistake, and it's something that Tracy and I, as recently as this afternoon, were talking about just in terms of process improvements and how we avoid this type of situation moving forward. We don't just do public hearings, as you can see from tonight, for the budget. We have multiple ones, and so we will be talking about how to improve the process, and then reporting back to you on what we're doing to make sure that doesn't happen again. I would note that we've had some meetings with the Department of Management to talk about logistically what happens, and what they're recommending to us is that we set the hearing and have the hearing based on the exact same documents we've already seen, the budget that we've already seen, and then at the after the May 27th hearing and ultimately an adoption by the City Council, the Department of Management would work with us to reduce our tax revenues that we were planning to get in FY26 to FY25 levels. And as you know, it's fund accounting. We have different tax levies, so it does get a little bit complicated. However, in our initial discussions with the Department of Management, we believe that we can take all of the $1.3 million, which is the revenue less that we would be getting in FY26, out of our debt service fund, which we have, if I recall, 1.6 million sitting in there in a surplus. So logistically, that would be the plan moving forward. I will add, as late as this afternoon, I say this with a little bit of caution. You saw in the paper probably this morning that the state legislature, both sides of the aisle, acknowledged that we made a mistake, and it was certainly not a willful or negligence on our part. It was an honest mistake, and so they're attempting to put some legislation forward that may resolve this and allow us to use the FY26 budget. According to Representative Nielsen, again, as of this afternoon, the House and Senate have both have an agreement on this. Now it's whether or not it moves forward, and then, of course,
It's introduced as House File 1052.
Okay, great. So there's some optimism there. Being a realist, obviously, until something is approved, we're going to continue down the path of planning as if that's not going to happen. And as part of that planning, as I've mentioned, we've talked to the Department of Management, and the first step is setting that hearing. So we'll take questions on the process, but before I close my remarks and turn it over to Tracy, I just want to reiterate some of the things that I said in the memo. We made a mistake. We want to be, and we are holding each other accountable to that mistake. We expect you to hold us accountable. While mistakes happen, we need to do better, and we're committed to do better. And I apologize. We apologize for going down this path. And with any luck, it will be corrected. Regardless of that, we still know that we need to improve and make some changes. So I'll close by just saying my apologies, and we will do better.
It's hard to follow that, Ryan. I would offer my sincere apologies as well. It was my email that didn't get out the door. And by all means, it's 19 years and more before that. I've never had something like this happen. And there are ways to make it, to put in those guardrails to ensure that this doesn't happen again. And Ryan and I are already starting on those. Mayor Pro Tem Wason saw some of those today. So you will be seeing more additional information on public hearings in the future. And this won't happen again.
Thank you.
Appreciate your guys' comments.
And if there are any any questions at all, we'd be happy to take those.
Anyone have any?
Ryan, from my recollection, this is Again, I appreciate the comments and certainly understand mistakes happen, and we're all human. These things happen and can be corrected, and you guys have both, fell on that sword for process improvement. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that you guys do. This would be the second of larger mistakes in the last, 3 or 4 years. So the last one was a levy rate number that was published incorrectly, if I recall. It wasn't that long ago. I think that was able to be corrected. Is there, so that leads to when there's process improvement identified by staff, is it a human process improvement, or is there something that council can help provide on a automated system issue? We spent significant money, over $400,000 in new software for city staff not that long ago. Is there something we already currently have that we can use that maybe we can be trained to use our system better, or is there something else that we can provide to assure those process improvements?
Sure. I think it's, to answer your initial question, I think it's both. I think we can do better as humans, just in, making sure, and all of us, just making sure we're helping each other out. But I do think at some point, in fact, Tracy's going to be at a seminar next week where there'll be some vendors that talk about agenda management software that a lot of cities are starting to use now, especially communities with as much going on as us. So we'll be looking at that, and so that could be potentially a financial request down the road. The software that you referenced is financial. They actually do a lot of things and have a bunch of different models. Any new model with them would cost money. Not sure if they even have this, and that's something we're going to explore on what might work best for our team. And then the last point I would make is as we look at something like that, it also gives us an opportunity to get other people on the team involved in the processes. And so, 17 years ago, 19 years ago, when Tracy started, we've come a long way. And I remember we won an award for going paperless, for our agendas. And my point being is that, we've molded over the years. We can probably do a little bit, but we can do better and get more people involved, and that way having just better protections for these types of things.
And then lastly, I think the reason we're having the ability for Representative Nielsen to even introduce this is the fact that the state is in overtime. Had they left when they were scheduled to leave, we wouldn't have this available to us. I think this is another very good example of how we have been careful here to not get involved politically in things that we shouldn't. And we are seeing a possible partnership that helps us out by Representative Nielsen, who I'm very thankful for her work in introducing in a bipartisan way in something that is not a political issue. So I'm grateful for the city's stance on that.
Anyone else?
I would just say I'm encouraged to hear that they're, considering or working on being able to help us out. The whole process to me being new, to public service and city government and stuff that, I send a lot of emails. I do a lot of paperwork. It's that one email, that there's not any kind of a recourse or a waiver, that maybe there is, maybe, they're taking care of that right now, and we're extremely grateful even for them to consider it. But, maybe at some point too, we could, look at the fact that this happened by one, simple email that didn't get sent, and I feel like there should be more, protections for cities in case something like this happened again, but that's their thing to do. And albeit a big deal, I shouldn't also, take away from, all the work that has been done, well over all these years. And so we'll work through it like we always do.
Just a few comments from me on this, and thank you both for your comments as well, Ryan and Tracy. We really appreciate that. This is an unfortunate situation that has a lot of visibility to it. If it were any other issue and we missed an email, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. I'm a firm believer that for me, it comes down to one word, and it's belief. We can check back in the notes. We can check back over the course of however many years, 10 years, whatever the case is, and we've praised and commented on the fiscal responsibility of this staff, of this council in this space. My hope is that common sense continues to drive that, and I also have belief in the efforts to recognize and acknowledge and admit a mistake happened, and that the process improvement will come, and then we'll be in an even better spot from a protection standpoint, from a fiscal responsibility standpoint. So I'm confident in this group. Thank you for your efforts to this point. Like I said, if it were any other issue, we would not be having this conversation. But I remain confident in our path forward, and that common sense will continue to come to light more, that kind of thing. Thank you.
Everybody. So you didn't get an email last night from me? Because I found it this morning in my draft.
So it happened to you too?
So it does happen. Okay, moving to, can we have a roll call, please?
Leibold,
And we're voting on the
setting the public hearing for the budget.
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Siddig.
Aye.
Resolution passes 5-0. Moving to item 21, the MLDC Inc. rezoning. Item A, second consideration of ordinance number 2025-07, an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from RS7 PAD, single unit residence district planned area development, and interim development district to RS4 single unit residence district on approximately 4.1 acres, RS6 single unit residence on approximately 1.74 acres, RS9 single unit residence district on approximately 0.42 acres, and RD10 2-unit residence district on approximately 10.34 acres. A motion for this?
So moved.
All right, been moved. Is there a second besides me?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just a point of clarification, please. I believe last time we had this conversation, we were looking at the total number of protests on a percentage basis. Can you explain where we're at presently? I see there's a summary in here. I just don't know if that's...
Based on what was whispered to me just moments ago, we have not had any sufficient number of complaints withdrawn or protests withdrawn. And so to pass this, is that we would need a 3/4 majority of 4 out of 5 votes.
4 out of 5.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And not to belabor this, but even if we did have people withdrawn, the public hearing is passed. So
I'm not certain that is the case. I think that there is a mechanism for folks to have withdrawn their comment afterwards. But
Yeah, and I did speak with a few folks after the last meeting, and they said, well, yeah, I don't want to withdraw my request. We just want to see how the process plays out. And I said, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the...
And we did add one additional protest, so that is included in your packet and that correspondence as well. So I think we're in the 30% range.
Any further discussion? So I'm not in favor of the RD10 myself, so I would vote no unless, so everybody's okay. With that, moving on to roll call, please.
Leibold,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason.
No. Motion passes 4-1. Moving on to item number 22, old business. Any old business?
Well, I think it's old business now because we just talked about it. I just, again, want to reiterate our council's appreciation to the State House for taking up and considering our motion to help us out in this difficult situation. Representative Nielsen being our representative and taking that and a bipartisan effort to get that to the floor. We are very appreciative. Thank you for your leadership on that. And to my colleagues' points, Mr. Park, hopefully it's never necessarily good to be a case study, but if there's a case study to be used to maybe build in some protections for cities for, honest mistakes like this, maybe this is one that they can consider in the next session. So thank you to the State House for taking this up.
So at the hospital, this would be an M&M event. So we would discuss what happened and what went wrong and how you don't make it happen again.
M&M.
I'll tell you about what the.
Okay, thank you.
So any other old business?
I just have, my understanding is that there's been at the state legislature, there's a bill signed into law regarding ADUs. Are we going to see those coming back soon?
Yes, we are planning on, fortunately, we had a great discussion. Yes, Counselor, state has passed a law that requires us to, or prohibits us from disallowing ADUs. So we will be presenting a ordinance to the Planning Commission in June. It'll come to you shortly after. We feel good about the structure that we had already presented to you, so we've got a good foundation for it. I don't think there's a need to do a lot of public vetting. We've already done that. I think there's going to be a couple minor changes to it, tweaks, but it'll be to you in June.
And the state law will go into effect whether we pass an ordinance or not. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Just from a visibility standpoint, and any kind of summary would be helpful on where we're at,
family,
past tense, and then what's changed.
Yeah. So the state law requires or prohibits the prohibition of ADUs on single-family dwelling lots, and those are up to 1,000 square feet, or half the size of the primary dwelling. They have a number of other limitations. So one of the things we talked about when we had people here was, can you have one of them be owner occupied, for example? Nope, we cannot require either of them to be owner occupied. That we can't have certain levels of finish that are required. They can't have them, and so the interplay that we will want to do is we have a limit on the number of accessory structures, and we can't prohibit an ADU from coming in. That might affect, if we don't want to have 3 buildings per backyard, for example. Yeah. Then we might have to structure that so where one gets removed in order to allow an ADU or something to that effect. So we need to workshop that to figure out what that is. And Russ has, as I'm sure you're aware, any number of wonderful ideas on how to make something that makes sense for us and still complies fully with state law.
Excuse me. That's what I was looking for. Is when that comes up again, that summary would be helpful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We'll get you something interesting.
I think in particular, the community will want to understand that covenants, this doesn't supersede the covenants.
That's right.
Already established for the neighborhood.
That's right.
So if the neighborhood doesn't allow those, it's not going to be, it's not going to happen. But I think just, because I think it's actually, if people know about it, it's going to be beneficial, for folks that can and want to take advantage of it. But yeah, I think also at the same time there were concerns. And I did, I've spoken to William and Jeff, and they're willing to come in and talk about that more if there's questions.
All right, any other old business? Moving to new business, any new business? Just had one thing, it's just that people look through the packet and read the police department accident reports. 5 out of 16 accidents in April were due to distracted drivers. So please, no cell phones.
They, as was in the packet, they also won an award for their policy.
Oh, yeah, Lexipol, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or, super user type thing, yeah.
Right. Moving to item 24, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved, and I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?